All right, let's get something straight real quick. History has told you a lie. Because when you think serial killer, your brain immediately goes, a creepy guy living in a basement with bad haircut, probably named Gary, and owns a white van. But here's the twist nobody warned you about. Some of the most cold-blooded, efficient, and downright terrifying killers in history were women. Aileen Wuornos. It's 1989, Florida, a stretch of highway somewhere outside Daytona Beach, and a woman is standing on the side of the road with her thumb out. She's in her 30s, blonde, and carrying a small bag. She's done this 100 times. She knows how this goes. A car slows, a man leans over to unlock the passenger door, and somewhere in the span of whatever happens next, that man ends up dead. His name was Richard Mallory, 51 years old, and he was the first of 7. Aileen Wuornos was born in Michigan in 1956, and I need you to understand something before we talk about what she did. Her life before the killings was genuinely one of the worst origin stories I've ever come across. Her father, a convicted child molester who killed himself in prison. Her mother abandoned her and her brother when they were just toddlers. She was taken in by her grandparents, and her grandfather was abusive. By the time she was 14, she was pregnant, thrown out of the house, and living in the woods, in Michigan, in winter. She survived by doing what she could to get by. For the next 2 decades, that meant drifting across the country, racking up arrests, surviving assault after assault, and eventually ending up in Florida where she met her girlfriend, Tyria Moore, and started working the highways as a sex worker. And then, the killing started. Between late 1989 and 1990, Aileen shot and killed 7 men. All were picked up as clients along Florida's highways. All were shot multiple times with a .22 caliber pistol. Their wallets, cars, and belongings were taken afterward. Now here's where it gets complicated, and honestly, I think this case deserves a little more nuance than it usually gets. Aileen always claimed self-defense. She said these men attacked her first, that they were violent, that she was protecting herself. She was caught in January 1991 when investigators matched fingerprints from a crashed car to Aileen's lengthy prior record. Her girlfriend, Tyria, the woman Aileen had been protecting and providing for, eventually cooperated with police in exchange for immunity and helped secure a confession. Aileen was tried for 6 murders and sentenced to death 6 times. On October 9, 2002, she was executed by lethal injection. Aileen Wuornos is one of the most debated figures in true crime. Was she a monster? A victim who snapped? Both. Probably both. The answer is almost always both. Dorothea Puente. It's 1988, Sacramento, California. A social worker named Judy Moyes is trying to find one of her clients, a mentally disabled man named Alvaro Montoya, 51 years old. She calls his home. No answer. She calls again. Nothing. She contacts his boarding house landlady, a warm, gray-haired woman in her late 50s named Dorothea Puente. She told Judy that Alvaro went to Mexico to visit family. She's sure he'll be back soon. Judy is not satisfied. She keeps pushing. Eventually, police are called in to do a welfare check at 1426 F Street, a charming Victorian house in downtown Sacramento, where Dorothea runs a boarding house for the elderly, disabled, and vulnerable. Police arrive. Dorothea greets them at the door. She is immaculately dressed, polite, offers them coffee. She is, by all accounts, the most grandmotherly woman you have ever seen. And then an officer notices the backyard, a patch of soil, recently disturbed. They dig, and then they dig some more. By the end of it, they have found 7 bodies buried in the garden of a house that had been visited regularly by parole agents, social workers, and law enforcement. 7 people in the yard of a house that was supposed to be a safe place for the most vulnerable people in the city. Dorothea had a brutal childhood. Both parents died before she was a teenager, and she bounced between family members and foster care. She lied compulsively from a young age about her age, her background, her past. By the time she was an adult, reinvention was second nature to her. She worked as a nurse's aide for years, which gave her access to the elderly and an understanding of medications. She also ran brothels, forged checks, and was arrested multiple times, none of which slowed her down much. In the 1970s and early 1980s, she built what looked like a genuine community resource. She hosted AA meetings, helped homeless people sign up for Social Security benefits, and took in people that nobody else wanted to deal with: the elderly, the addicted, the mentally ill. And look, here's the thing that makes this case genuinely complicated. By multiple accounts, she wasn't all bad at first. She did help people. People liked her. Former tenants spoke warmly about her. She was, by appearances, a community pillar. Parole officers visited her boarding house, a place filled with elderly and disabled people, with her literally intercepting their mail and cashing their social security checks, and found nothing to charge her with. Multiple times, different agents, same result. A man named Chief, a handyman she'd taken in, was paid to dig in the basement and lay a new concrete slab. Chief then disappeared. Nobody seemed to connect those dots. Ruth Monroe, her business partner, died of an overdose in Dorothea's home in 1982, ruled a suicide. Her pen pal, 77-year-old Everson Gilmuth, moved in with her the moment she got out of prison in 1985. By November of that year, she had a handyman build a wooden box, 6 feet by 3 feet by 2 feet, and paid him a bonus and her dead boyfriend's truck to haul it to a riverbank. A fisherman found it on New Year's Day, 1986. It took 3 years to identify the body inside as Gilmuth. 3 years. A man disappears, a mystery box shows up in a river near the home of a known fraudster with a criminal record, and it takes 3 years to put those pieces together? I'm not trying to be mean to law enforcement, but come on. When investigators finally began digging up that backyard in November 1988 and found the first body, Dorothea did something remarkable. She asked the detective, Detective John Cabrera, if she could walk a few blocks to visit her nephew at a nearby hotel. She promised she'd come right back. Cabrera, who did not yet consider her a suspect, let her go. She took a taxi to a bus station, a bus to Los Angeles, checked into a hotel, and walked into a bar. There, she started chatting to an elderly man. He thought she looked familiar. He'd been watching the news. He called the police. Dorothea Puente was charged with 9 counts of murder. She was convicted of 3, the jury deadlocked on the other 6. She received 2 consecutive life sentences. She maintained her innocence until her death in 2011 at age 82, and hopefully Dorothea gets what she deserves in hell. Nannie Doss. This is Nannie Doss, also known as, and I promise you this is real, the Giggling Granny. Born in 1905 in Alabama, Nannie had an abusive, controlling father who kept her out of school to work the farm and forbade her daughters from wearing makeup or nice clothes. Her escape? Romance magazines. She was obsessed with the Lonely Hearts columns, the personal ads, and spent her whole life chasing the fantasy of perfect romantic love that those stories described. The problem was that real marriage kept falling short of the fantasy, and Nannie's solution to an unsatisfying marriage was, well, rat poison in the prunes. She married 5 times. 4 of those husbands died. In between husbands, she also killed 2 of her own children, 2 grandchildren, a sister, her mother, and a mother-in-law. The total confirmed count is 11 people across nearly 2 decades, and not one person suspected her, not for years. In 1954, when her 5th husband, Samuel, died suspiciously quickly after being discharged from the hospital, his doctor ordered an autopsy. The results came back with enough arsenic in his system to kill a horse. When police interrogated Nannie Doss about the murders, she giggled. She smiled and laughed and happily told them everything. Not in an unhinged, manic way, just conversationally, like she was recounting a funny story at a church potluck. Nannie was sentenced to life in prison. The state didn't pursue the death penalty because of her sex. She died of leukemia in 1965, still smiling as far as anyone could tell. She must be one crazy lunatic. The most dangerous killers in history weren't always the ones who looked the part, and I think that's probably the most uncomfortable takeaway from all of this. Anyway, that's the video. If you made it to the end, honestly, respect. This one was a lot.
You can like and subscribe while we wait for part 2.